Dr. Dicken Bettinger, thank you for joining us in our mastermind group that we've opened up to the wider Three Principles community. This Q&A will be approximately an hour or so, and people will have the opportunity to raise their hand and ask Dicken a question in this wonderful time we have together. To introduce Dicken, he has been he started his career teaching high school students and went on to study psychology in both Penn State and BU and became a clinical psychologist in 1983. A 3-decade career followed, of which 2/3 as a psychologist has been dedicated to sharing these universal principles as articulated by Sydney Banks. Dicken is now retired, yet he's busier than ever with his Three Principles mentoring consultancy and as a global speaker and in-demand seminar leader as well. So Dicken, did I miss anything?
I got two great kids, and they each have two wonderful kids. So I have four grandkids, and I have a little 5-month-old puppy. He's a little ragamuffin. He's the cutest little thing.
And I
So
think his name is Oliver, is that right?
Oliver, yeah, we actually named him after our favorite poet, Mary Oliver. Uh,
Fantastic.
so Ollie for short.
Ollie, well, that
Yeah,
is brilliant. And funnily enough,
yeah.
what I've decided to do is ask one question to get the ball rolling and then ask people to raise their hand and I'll come to them in order. But the question I have actually ties into something you've just said. So I'm going to ask it now, Dick. You have been a student and a teacher of this principles based understanding for decades. And along the way, I know you've learned some incredible lessons and had some breathtaking insights into our true nature. Dickon, if one of your grandkids was to tap you on the shoulder and say, Grandpapa, what is the most important thing you have learned in all these years and why? What would you say?
I've had this talk with each of them. Mostly it's less what I say, but how I live while I'm with them that teaches them. Right? That when we're fully present, we're free to have any feeling. So I tell my kids, any feeling you have is normal. But when you're fully present, no matter what you're feeling, you can enjoy life. So basically, I say go and enjoy life. And if at some point you're really not enjoying life, if you know it has something to do with thought, it'll bring you back to the present moment. You'll be able to continue to enjoy life like you do most of the time anyway. Yeah, I've had that talk with my kids many times, with myself many times, with my wife, with my grandkids. It's just like we're all characters. We all get caught up. Big deal. We're here to experience life. We're going to have all kinds of feelings, and either you think about them and judge them and try and fix them and change them, or you just learn to be free and let them flow through. And if you're present, no matter what you're feeling, you'll be able to be kind. You'll be able to have common sense. You'll do fine in life. You'll do great in life. So I guess that's what comes to mind, Thomas.
That's beautiful, Dickon. Thank you so much.
Mm.
And I would ask anyone that has a question in mind to simply press the raise hand button and I'll come to you in order. And until someone does, I will pull from the pool of questions that we have that have been submitted along the way. And I see the first hand has gone up, and it's from New York. So, Martin Dara, the floor is yours.
Martin, and Vera can't find the raise hand button, so you might
So,
give instructions.
Vera, on the reactions tab, when you press reaction, there's a raise hand button underneath all of the emojis. And if you click that button, it will put you in an order in a queue that I will see, and then I'll be able to come to you in order.
Great.
Thank you, Vera. Okay, Martin, you can unmute
Martin.
yourself.
All right.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dicken. Thank you for being here. It's very great to see you again. So the question that I wrote 2 weeks ago to Thomas was how am I supposed to know what's going to come up in 2 weeks? So I'm not gonna go with my pre-submitted question. What's coming up for me is that there's over the last week or two, there's been a lot of I want to say scary thinking occurring in my household with my family. A lot of negative news happening around us, and I'm the only one that has the that's been in this 3P understanding, and I'm trying to figure out a way to bring that into the household, and I'm not exactly sure the best way to do it. I kind of loved your answer already about how you're living it.
Yeah.
So I guess that's pretty much where I'd like to start today, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, Martin, it's good because often we notice people around us getting really involved in their thinking, and things can be scary and difficult when any of us do that. As a matter of fact, that's the one thing that gets any of us into trouble. Psychologically, then you could say there's really only one problem. At times, each of us get caught up in thinking, and what we're thinking seems true, and then we act on that basis. That's how I still, when I get into trouble, that's what happens to me. That's the one problem that happens psychologically to any human being. Now, the cure for that problem is in presence. This deeper intelligence guides us. Right? So I've been very curious of late. For the last year, I've been really very, very interested in sort of the power of true presence. Right? Like I noticed that in order to discover the spiritual nature of life or the present moment or well-being, my teacher, Sid Banks, said we have to go beyond our intellect, beyond our thinking, beyond or before or under our conceptual mind. We have to go beyond all of it. So it's been fun to see when I let go of literally everything I think and believe just for moments. Always what's left is an awake presence. It's our true nature. It's our soul. And in presence, we have an impact on what's around us. I discovered that being with horses that a friend of mine owns. Presence draws the horse to you. They feel safe. I have a puppy. When I'm up in my head, he picks up on that. And when I'm fully present, he begins to calm down. I had noticed that with my kids growing up as a parent. So being around, like one time I saw Sid Banks walk into a house. We were having a gathering, and a friend of mine was having a really rough time and was doing a lot of thinking about some difficult things. And Sid didn't say a word. He just walked over and sat next to him quietly. And I watched them calm down just being in that presence. And presence conveys safety to beings. Cats sense presence and will come right to you. Oh, you're a cat lover. That's what it means. Or dogs just like you. Right? My grandson got up into his head, and all of a sudden my dog starts barking at him. My puppy is like, they're so, and people are like that too. We sense presence. When I work with teenagers, sometimes their biggest complaint is my parents are never present with me. I never get to see that parent. They're always in their head with an agenda, telling me what I should do or not do. And they're just begging for presence. If I don't feel close to my wife, it's pretty much a guarantee I'm not present. And when I get more present, at some point, always, in presence, our thinking just quiets down naturally. We're resting in one of the three principles, resting in pure awareness, pure consciousness, wide open. Consciousness is infinite, wide open. It's like the sky. Awareness has no boundaries. They can't find it inside the human being. We're living in a field of awareness. So when we fall out of our thinking, we're standing in the field of presence. It's also pure thought. So it's open to possibilities, open to new thinking, new ideas. Like you said, Martin, I think I'll wait until I'm present to see what occurs to me rather than coming up with a question now that'll be 2 weeks old. Presence. You begin to trust that in presence, new and fresh comes. You begin to trust that in presence, there's a feeling of being present that's beautiful. We'll talk maybe more about that as we go, because Sid made a huge deal about the feeling of presence. It's not a particular feeling. You can be in a shitty mood and be fully present. There's a feeling in that embraces the shittiness, right? It's unbelievable. Presence is unconditional. Presence itself is unconditional love. Is that helpful, Martin? I'm just yamming on, but it's a great question.
Extremely helpful. And what I love about it was that there was no like, you need to say the right thing or you need to, do the right thing. And I think that that's really what I was searching for, trying to do it. And that's
easy to do. It helped me when I started catching on to in presence, there's a feeling of just being. And in that feeling is a formless intelligence that helps us know when to stand up, when to sit down, when to move forward, when to keep our mouth shut, when to open it and just trust whatever comes out. It's a feeling. So Sid would say, listen for the feeling, and I'm putting in parentheses of presence, because that you can be in a horrible mood and you're either caught in thought or you're present. Right? Right? One problem, we get caught in thought, believe it, think it's true. Different feeling.
Absolutely. And I've experienced it like in conversations with certain coaches I'm sure that you know as well. One of your friends actually helped me get there, Andy Winter.
Andy Winter. Oh, wow.
Very nice conversation with him. And I felt it just from our just from being in the conversation. Oh wow, this is it.
Oh, nice. Martin, can I just thank you for one other thing? My two favorite things in the world are trees and birds, and I've loved that tree right there. I can't take my eyes off it, and the birds singing. It's like a little gift for me this morning here. So thanks.
You're very welcome. I'm glad. I'm glad it's a nice day out, so I could get some fresh air. It feels good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it.
Okay, Martin. Take care.
Thank you so much for that, Martin. And I hear so much in that beautiful answer. Dicken, we're moving over now north of Martin to Canada, to Carrie Klein. Carrie, all yours.
Oh, I see her. Yeah. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Dicken. Thank you. Thank you for what you just answered with Martin. And I'm sorry I don't have a tree, nothing pretty behind me right now.
No,
so I had an
scarf, though.
Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
Mine's kind of a question, but it was really an experience I had, and I didn't know if maybe you could speak to it. When I came across these principles, I had a pretty wild experience of, just relief, like freedom. Just, oh my goodness, I really have just been completely caught up. And one area that it really helped me in was finances, because I'd made a lot about my worth and where I was going and what I wasn't achieving, all that around money.
Yeah.
Well, my husband and I over the last 4 years have managed a pretty difficult financial situation, and we've done it. And I've felt better having the principles than not. But I had what felt like a very visceral response when we sold our house, knowing that our finances are going to have like a massive shift. Oh, you are there. Okay, I thought I was frozen.
Oh,
sorry.
no, I'm still.
You're so sweet. You're so present. And I felt like I could have fallen to my knees with relief. Like I can almost feel it right now. And I wonder, even though I had felt better for the last 3 years since coming across the principles, can thinking still be hanging out in the background that still, I guess, is operating as true? Because that feeling of relief was huge. And I thought, oh shoot, I had made something up that suddenly shifted. Like I must have been really caught in it, but not knowing I was caught in it. So I don't know what you hear in that. Maybe it's not a question, but I was a bit baffled. I'm like, what? Okay, that just happened.
Well, you're pointing towards something, Carrie, that's true for all of us.
Mm.
We're human and we're beings.
Yes.
And on the human level, we'll continue to have all kinds of feelings and experiences, and they're just natural.
Okay.
Right? I feel sad. I feel elated. I feel surprised. I feel grief. We all have all these feelings, which are just reflective of the flow of what thought is flowing through us. And so all of those feelings are normal. They're natural until we start doing what you're doing, and what I often do is start wondering, yeah, but why? What about this? That would be, listen, we're part of nature. And so we're going to have all the weather that nature has. But every once in a while we're saying, well, all of a sudden the sun came out. It must have been, and we make up a story about it.
Mm.
So go ahead and feel relief, and go ahead and what I am enjoying now is tension has become friendly to me. Thank God I feel tense and stressed or upset. It reminds me I'm uptight in my thinking.
Right.
And if I really, as Sid would say, if you really see that tension is thought, you'll let go of, you'll naturally, without technique or effort, naturally you'll let go of the thinking that's holding that tension in place so that it can be free to be and to flow. And so you'll continue to have a flow of experiences. Look at babies.
Yeah.
Tense, relief, excitement, bother, just flowing through.
Right.
Right. So I aspire to be more and more in baby consciousness.
Okay.
And then there's no problem with anything you're feeling until you think there is.
Really.
Is that helpful, Carrie?
Yeah, you're right. I kind of went into, well, what is that I just experienced, rather than just allowing for the experience that clearly I had been tense. Clearly, I must have been having relief.
Yeah. My wife and I had COVID early on, and I felt like I was going to die for 2.5 weeks, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And we made the personal decision we would go with some of our doctor's recommendations to get the shot. And after the second shot, I felt such relief. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea how I was still apprehensive about catching it a second time and going through what was horrific, going through that again. And I said to my wife, I feel like celebrating. I didn't even know that was still in the background, sort of weighing on me a little bit, you know, all that apprehension. And I said, I feel like celebrating. And I said, I want a piece of chocolate. And we went and found a piece of chocolate for me. Isn't that funny? Yeah. You can let it all come through. It's all good. Sid would say it's perfect as it is until you think about it. Or he would say we're enlightened beings until we think. Right? We're newborns until, can you imagine a newborn going, why am I feeling this way? What's with this? Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. We're going to move over to Veena now, who had some issues raising her hand.
She found her hand.
Well, I couldn't find my hand. I still haven't found it. So I just figured out other ways to do it. So thank you, Thomas, for letting me ask the question. Well, first, I'll probably give a quick background, because I think I have had a different experience with the principles. I've had a lot of things in life, like a couple of times I nearly died, one in a road accident and one in a reaction to a food, which we didn't know I had eaten because I wasn't told it was there. And we didn't know the reaction had gotten that bad. But especially at that, during that episode, out of the blue, I got this thought that I should use my son's inhaler like 20 times, because that is almost like a half a nebulizer. So I have no idea where that came from. All I know was the doctor had told me that I could use it on him, but it was in my handbag. And there were a number of things that have happened in my life. And I used to wonder, how did I get the thought? I mean, I must be really blessed. I'm quite a religious and a spiritual person. I was brought up in India, so you can imagine the background. So I was like, definitely he's looking out for me, he or she, whoever is looking out for me. And I'm definitely blessed. And I sometimes called it presence of mind. And then a month or so back, I learned about the principles. And despite only being a month-old child in this world of the 3 principles, I have had so many insights. And it feels like all those things, what I call presence of mind, were really the wisdom in me. So when I had the road accident, I was unconscious, but every now and then I woke up and then I would shout out for help. How I rolled down my window, I don't know. My car was upside down and I was upside down. So no idea, but all those things happened and I was rescued. I still don't know how I was rescued, but I was rescued. So I have this deep faith that there is something out there, and I always believe there is something bigger than who I think I am. And that's been so liberating, so empowering, because I don't feel limited anymore. And I'm not feeling like, this is my personality. I'm one of those very strict parents, or no, I can be whatever I want to be. I can be the fun parent. I don't have to adopt any of those. So my question is around, so I'm still seeking, as you can see. My question is around, I've understood, and when I say understood, I have seen it, not just intellectually understood. I've seen that if I step away from my thinking, it definitely helps the quality of life, because I realized it's only the little things in life that seem to have been blown out of proportion and led to a miserable life, really. Otherwise, things are fine. And like you just said, it resonated so well with me. Now I'm far more sensitive to any stress or distress, whatever it is. And I'm immediately able to say, okay, that's just a thought, let it pass. So I think I'm beginning to practice this, stepping away from my thought a lot more. And fortunately, I seem to do that with what you call the positive and the negative thought, because I think a balance in reaction is better than only trying to hold on to the more positive, the more exciting, the more happy things, than letting go of. I think they should be seen the same. Any extreme is probably not the best place to be. So they just thought, let's not give a label to it, is sort of where I am. But I wondered if the more we practice stepping back from the so-called negative thoughts, or the ones that give us undesirable emotions and feelings, would the thought machine in our head, because I understand that we are only aware of 10% of our thoughts, the rest of them are still just in the background and we're not aware of it. I have no idea what causes which thoughts to come to the surface and become aware of. I was wondering if the more I practice the stepping away, will my machine learn to focus more on sending the so-called positive thoughts to the surface and be less aware of the negative thoughts? Or maybe altogether it'll reduce the creation of the so-called positive thoughts, which is probably so-called negative thoughts, which is probably very unlikely, because thoughts per se don't have a sign to them. We assign the sign to them. So you can see I'm really caught up in my thinking on this. What are your comments? I would love to hear from you on this.
Well, it's evident that you've been guided through your life by this deeper intelligence that I like to call wisdom, because it's always there guiding people whether they know it or not. It's like gravity is always there operating on us, whether we know it or not. Insight allows us to become aware of what's already true. The principles are not ideas or beliefs that we can learn at a certain point, any more than gravity is a belief. It's a force. The principles are three ways of talking about God. I'll speak to you as a Hindu here, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
The three universal faces of the divine. The greatest mystery of the divine is in this infinite field of energy. Life is created. Out of nothing comes something. That's the one fundamental universal principle. There is only God, whether in form or formless. Three characteristics of that formless dimension of the divine. It's an intelligence, it's wise, because it knows how to create everything that exists and operate it. It's the source of life. It's an intelligent source of life. That's why we can talk about wisdom and becoming more and more awake to the fact that we're connected to a deeper intelligence that in our quiet moments is guiding us perfectly, whether we know it or not. Right? And you've been fortunate to have had experiences where you also had insight into wisdom and grateful for it and how it's been operating and bringing you, like the idea to use your nebulizer there, and when we're fully present, we're open and receptive to the influence of this deeper intelligence, and it will bring us what we need in that moment. Maybe a feeling, maybe a perception, maybe a thought, maybe a movement, right? But it moves us toward what's best for the whole, moves us toward well-being. It's not ego trying to do what it think is best for me. It's what's best for the whole, right? What moves us toward well-being, which benefits not only us, but the whole. So one characteristic of the infinite field of life, spiritual energy, formless into form energy, is awareness. Everything that's created has a degree of awareness. Every cell in the universe responds to conditions, temperature, pressure, touch, light, temperature, right? Because it's aware, we're aware beings because we're created out of awareness, formless energy, full of knowing. Another characteristic of God, of the divine, is it's creative. You can say that. It makes specific trees, flowers. So with Sid Banks' understanding, thought is the formless creative energy behind all life. So a tree is God's thought. A person is God's thought. A feeling is God's thought. A thought is God's thought. And all that's important to understand about thought is that our experience is created from within, metaphorically, from a formless energy. And then you won't blame what you're feeling on situations or people or the past or your personality or something in the world of form, your biochemistry. You say, anything that exists is created from the same creative energy behind life. So there's one thought behind life, one consciousness, one being, one mind. And because it's all one, when we get quiet, we have feelings that connect us to life in a positive way. It's not positive trying to think positive. It's when I let go of all thinking, my experience becomes more positive. Unconditional feelings of well-being. It's a recognition of the connection that's always already true in life. Well, we're already part of one. We think we're separate and alone or different. But as people fall out of their thinking, they fall out of their sense of ego, and automatically they start feeling feelings of being more connected. So when I go for a walk in the woods and fall out, I begin to feel the spirit within trees. I fall in love with those beings, my brother and sister trees, all one family, all one family. So I'm glad there's no end to insight we can have about God. Anybody who says, oh, I understand what God is, has an idea they're holding on to. But as we begin to see more deeply this nature. When I get quiet, there's no end to insights I can have, or you can have, or anybody can have. Whenever I work with a client, no matter how desperate, I know they are connected to the infinite source of life, that when they are listening and present, they can't stop themselves from having new thinking that will lift their spirits or help them see life more clearly. I know that's true. I don't have to do that. It's also the end of seeking, because if we think positive feeling is out there in the world when we do certain things, we don't realize it's our nature. And that when we fall out of efforting and trying, even for moments, we start feeling better for no reason. It's already true. It's our nature. Deeper feelings are our nature, not the conditional feelings created by some of the thinking we have or some of the situations we're in. A deeper peace, a deeper enjoyment of this moment with our senses wide awake, a deeper feeling of connection that's love. It's right here, given freely and unconditionally when we're open and receptive to it. So search away, Veena, and then at some point you start searching without searching. You just start finding a contentment that's beyond the impatience and the urgency and the desires and the needingness and the wanting. And it's just contentment with what is as it is. Very nourishing.
I can see it. I can see how, I can feel how it will feel.
Yeah, good.
And that's motivating.
In order to see how it feels, you have to taste it. You get a taste, rasa, right? Yep. You get a taste of this moment. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for your patient answer.
No, you're welcome. That was a wonderful question in my mind. I really like that.
Thank you.
Because we're all seeking. As soon as we think we're seeking, because it puts us in time. So there's always an imagined better future. When I fall out of my thinking, I fall out of time. So it's timeless. There's no seeking if there's no time. No.
Thank you so much, Veena, for that question. And thank you, Dicken. I could literally feel how much it impacted Veena by the expression on her face after you answered the question. And I had a thought myself, which was, when we force ourselves to think positive, we're actually trying to outdo the perfection that exists when we stop trying to think positive. Isn't that confusing?
It's like a friend says to me, who died and made you God? Right?
Yeah.
Here, let me take over and I'll think it positive. I used to spend hours and hours doing affirmation notebooks and trying to think positive and tell myself that even though I felt horrible, I was really a beautiful person. And it was so much work and effort. And then in my very first training in the principles, when I let go of all of that thinking and efforting, I felt so alive. And I wasn't trying. And it was a wake-up call for me. Still to this day, tension just reminds me that I already have what I'm looking for, and just be grateful for already being connected to life that way, to love that way.
So, Dicken, we're moving over now to Rotem Cohen. Your hand is up next.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, hi. It's
Calling
good to-
from Athens.
Oh, wonderful. My friend Sophia is there.
Exactly. And we're some of us from the Academy are here in Hawaii.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm basically kind of a newbie to this, and I'm
Yeah, me too.
I got the pleasure or the gift of the three principles introduced to me in a very troubling time in my life, and it really helped me deal with a lot of the things I had to. And one of the things that really helped me was understanding that circumstances are not what will make me happy or miserable or whatever.
Yeah.
But then and lately, and it's just something that happened to me in the last few weeks, I find myself in a bit of a conundrum. I'm used to set goals for myself, to where I want to go and what I want to do. But suddenly those goals looks like circumstances to me. I want to do this because this will make me happy. I want to do that because then I will succeed. And I find myself in a point that I don't know how to approach this and not get tangled in my own three principles understanding.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Oh.
I know. There are no rules in the principles. It's like gravity doesn't tell you what to do. Right? A full human being. This is what occurs to me, Rotem. I hope this is helpful. If not, you can ask some more. Full human being has a really beautiful, is aligned with the way life works. So there's a balance between the intellect and wisdom. They're working together in partnership. But they're two completely different worlds. One's the world of time, and the other is beyond time, the world of well-being. Right? So both are beautiful. So sometimes, I mean, think of your intellect as a computer you were given at birth as a present. And some people learn the principles and say, oh, I shouldn't use my computer anymore. If I didn't use my computer anymore, I wouldn't remember your name. I wouldn't remember that my friend Sophia lives in Athens. I wouldn't be able to say, I hope to see you someday in Greece in the future. I couldn't make up a way of talking about time that's really helpful and practical. If it occurs to me and feels right to set a goal, I'll set it, but I'm not wedded to it the way I used to be. Because who knows where the winds of wisdom will blow you, but sometimes it's really fun to set a goal or to make a list. I write myself little notes. It's sort of funny. You know, I don't have to, but why not use? You can tell when you're using your intellect wisely. It doesn't feel like effort. You're thinking about what time to go to the airport. You're making a plan. Doesn't feel like effort. When I use my intellect unwisely, there's tension, stress, confusion, uncertainty, upset. And that lets me know it's time to close my laptop and come back open, because wisdom has some wants to guide me here. The answer I'm looking for can't be found in the computer. The computer doesn't even know how to use itself wisely, so I can't figure that out. But when I'm quiet, I find myself just naturally using my computer. And then when it doesn't feel good, as it says, then it'll bring you back to the now, which is like telling a teenage kid, you've had enough screen time, close your computer, step away from your screen. right? So our feelings are helpful. They let us know how to find that balance between intellect and wisdom. And then, as Sid says, you get good at going back and forth between those two worlds. Isn't that nice? Rodham, how's this sounding?
No, it's it is. It's like I'm just need to let it happen and see where it goes.
There you go. You gotta lighten up about all this.
Trying to.
If you feel like thinking, think. If you feel like planning, plan. You don't have to force yourself to do any of that. And when the feeling is right, it helps you find that natural balance, right? You're right back. You see, the intellect doesn't want to let go of itself, because when I let go of myself, I go before or beyond the intellect and what it can know and what it does know. To the intellect, that's death, because the intellect can't know of what lies beyond it. So it thinks there's only intellect, right? So we talk about, we go from the known at times into the unknown, which is just temporarily closing the laptop. But the great discovery is you don't die. You're fully awake and alive in the now. And then new and fresh can be created that doesn't come from the computer, from memory. It's new and fresh. It's alive. It guides us. It's full of feeling of love and wisdom, right? So we make room for that when it's time for that to come through.
Thank you. That
You're
was
welcome.
meaningful.
Hope to get there soon. I think I'll make a plan.
Oh, we would have you and honor you in our academy, that's for sure.
Okay, take care.
Evaristo Poli wrote him. And now we're moving over to Nikki Jewson.
I see Nikki there.
Hello. Hi, Dicken. Hi, everybody. Right. So for me, it's quite a specific thing that I'm raising. A bit of history around myself. I'm from Leicester in England. And I've seen you in Staunton Harold.
I remember. Yeah, I remember.
I've got some history with 2 episodes of psychosis, and it's not something that I have a diagnosis of. And what I've learned through those periods of psychosis is that I have insight. Yeah. Even when I take my thinking to be the gospel and I send myself crazy, deep within, there's a genuine wisdom that I never lose sight of. Yeah. So if I give you an example, in 2019, I got quite paranoid about my phone being bugged and the internet, and I'd had to get out of the house. I didn't go across a park because I knew that it would be unsafe. So I went around the road so that I had that inner wisdom to keep me safe.
Yes.
Unfortunately, recently I've had an acute stress response this time. So I've been downgraded from a psychotic episode. And unfortunately, I missed the seminar that you did with Michael Neal, the fear and insecurity. Mm-hmm. But I've been able to access a recording. And I think I find it uncanny that had I perhaps heard that, I may not have had the recent crisis that I've had. And in that talk you had with Michael about fear and insecurity, I heard you both talking about you'd had clients or experiences of people in psychosis. And I just wanted to hear you talk about it, really, just to give me some insight, further insight, shall we say.
the psychotic experience is still thought in the moment.
Mm.
Hallucinations are thoughts in the moment, creating imagery. So it's all just still the flow of thought in the moment. And when I've worked with people who have some extreme experiences, let's say,
Yeah.
they still have to get present to do things like walk across the room or walk to the park, cross the street. And in those moments, they're not holding thought. So they're in their well-being, and insight can come through.
Mm-hmm.
And then whether people listen to it or trust it or not is another matter, but it's available. It's always available. It's the metaphor that's been used for centuries. It's maybe the first metaphor for well-being is sun, sky, and clouds. And if we get caught up in and identified as I am clouds, we lose our true self, our true identity, which is I'm all of it. I'm not just clouds, but I'm sky and I'm sun. And so when I'm caught up in my thinking, no matter what it is, there's a falling into this open space of presence, awareness, the now, which we need to do to walk across the street or drive a car or listen to anything. And in that openness, this deeper intelligence, the sun, when the clouds part, the sun's always there waiting to break through, and it brings us common sense and clarity, which keeps us alive in a sense.
Keeps us well.
Keeps us well. Yeah, it does. And what I like about insight is that it helps us not only to experience that, to become aware that that's always there and always true.
And what's quite interesting, sorry.
Yeah, no, please go ahead.
It's quite interesting because I had a lot of fear about this temporary job that I was doing, and and getting this permanent role, and that created my problems. And
it creates my problems.
It's that constant striving and not being present, and it's that insecurity. And it just this morning, I've sent an email to the school to say, because I went in 2 days this week, not fully recovered, having had applied for the permanent role. I've been told I've got an interview on Friday. I've withdrawn from the interview because I know when I really am present, my wisdom is saying nah.
Yeah.
And for the first time in 5 years, when I first had my psychotic episode, I'm holding that true, and I'm being true to myself, and I'm incredibly proud to have made that decision and to allow myself that time for continued recovery.
So much of my journey has been learning to trust that when my mind is relaxed and open, what occurs to me, I can trust.
Scary, like it's really scary.
Well, if it's scary, that's just a bunch of other thoughts kicking in. And if you see that at a certain point, it doesn't matter if fear comes up, it's just more thoughts flowing through. I give an example, Nikki. I was working with a woman who has had psychotic episodes, but she started learning the principles. And for the first time, she started seeing that they were thoughts too. And then it wasn't so scary for her.
I think it's the people's reactions to it. I think those people that are with you, that when you're experiencing that makes it more challenging. And I think the mental health system creates fuel to the fire.
It does innocently. It has.
And it fails people. And I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah. Well, it's been innocent. I used to fail people too, because I was doing the best I could given what I had learned based on what seemed true at that time. And then there's discoveries like Sid Banks, and then suddenly, after 10 years of being a psychologist, I threw away everything I'd learned and started over again. That's just a natural evolution of science, and that's happening in the field of mental health and psychology and psychiatry right now. There's a gradual evolution as discoveries are made, right? So this woman I was telling you about was hitchhiking, and she got into a big truck, and it was a newer truck. So when the door closed, the lock went down, and she completely freaked out and is screaming and yelling and pounding on the window. And the guy is going, oh my God, I'm sorry. And he unlocks the door, and she jumps out, and she's screaming, and the guy gets out of his truck to see if she's okay. And all of a sudden she realized she was just caught in a thought storm. And that moment of recognition allowed her to quiet down. You know what happened then? They switched roles. He was freaking out because she had freaked out so much. And she was saying, oh, no, I'm fine now. I just had some thoughts. And then pretty soon, for the first time in her life, she got a job. And when she'd start to hallucinate, she'd just take a little break in the back room and just let it flow through and wait a little bit. And then she'd get over it and she'd go back and be with the customers.
That's an art. I like that. Thank you.
See, it was wisdom that has been guiding you behind the scenes all this time. And it was wisdom that brought that story. I haven't thought of that story for years. And in talking to you, it just came to mind, and it's the perfect story. So
it is. Yeah, good timing. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Thanks so much, Nikki. Dicken, I love when you say the winds of wisdom. It's beautiful. Now, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Last one. Yeah.
Billy Mann from the west coast of Ireland. Are you there?
My mate, Billy.
Billy?
Where is he? Is he getting unmuted here?
There you go. Sorry. I was just saying, hi, Dicken. I just pop up in the most unusual places, you know.
You do.
Surprise!
Billy interviewed me, so it's a couple of times.
Dicken, and every time it's, and I'm sitting here and I was just reflecting on it a few minutes ago. There's always such a beautiful feeling having a conversation with you, Dicken. It really is. It's a joy of my life. When I get a chance to talk to you, I say that sincerely. I'm conscious of the time, and I'm conscious that people are here. And it's a question that has occurred to me on a couple of different occasions recently. Is the subject of desire.
Yes.
In the essence of bringing something into the world. I'm not quite sure how to phrase what I'm saying, but how do we know when we're bringing something into the world, you know, in the sense of the desire? Is it, how do we know when it's not egoic? How do we know that we're being pulled to bring something into the world, pulled to create something in the world that isn't caught, you know, that dance between the ego and, or the personal and the impersonal, the dance between the ego and the wisdom?
Yeah.
You know, the sense, you know, in the sense of, I suppose, at the far over in the spiritual end, from the nothing, from the formless into form. You know, that sense of how it's coming through us.
Yeah.
A nice light question to finish up the webinar on.
It's in the feeling. Let's come back to, remember I said in the beginning, we might come back to this, how important the feeling of presence is.
Mm.
Let me just say, when I'm confused about something, am I bringing the right thing into the world or not? See, that's confusion, right?
Mm.
When I'm ambivalent, confused, uncertain, unsure, that's thought creating a mild degree of tension. When I fall fully into the now, there is no confusion. And that's presence. And there's a feeling to presence that we can become really familiar with. When I'm in presence, whatever I do or it occurs to me to do, I do. Because there's no confusion in presence. If I think about anything, I can get confused about it. Confusion only exists in the world of our personal thinking. I should, I shouldn't. Is this right? Is this wrong? The intellect is the world the opposite. So everything I think has an opposite. So if I think I should do this, there's also a thought I'm not sure I should. Then that's confusion. When I fall out of my thinking, I fall out of opposites. And then there's just knowing that has no opposite. Just feels right. So say I get inspired to bring beautiful music into the world, and then I start thinking about it and I go, oh, I don't know if I should offer to do this concert or not. Maybe I should. No, I'm not sure. Is this really coming from me? Is this really what's best for the world? Maybe I should do music some other way. Maybe I should just go in the street and play. Maybe, and then I fall out of that. And then out of the blue, something occurs to me that feels right. That's wisdom. At that moment, there is no opposite. If there's an opposite, I guarantee it's not wisdom speaking through you.
Yeah, I like the sense of the word opposite. You know, it tells that story, you know, because I've come around it a couple of times recently, Dicken, as things have been transitioning inside in my own life now at the moment, and I'm moving forward. And I suppose with such a dynamic change in my own circumstances, I suppose there is, being human, there's stuff milling around inside in the head, and it's perfectly normal. And part of me was just wondering recently about this subject of desire and what it is I want to bring into the world, and I suppose I was chewing it a little bit, and I wasn't quite sure what I was trying to make sense of. But until you use the word opposite,
yeah,
and the moment that I said, yeah, there is no opposition to wisdom. There is no opposite to it. There is it just, and my life is full of those experiences.
Yes, you know, here's the other thing, Billy, because I know you, and I'm going to answer that question a little differently now. When anybody goes before the intellect, that's just presence, and there's a feeling. So Sid Banks would say, when you fall out of ego, you'll always bring a nicer feeling into the world. You're bringing love, literally love and consciousness into the world. That's how the world changes. And then we go, but what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Rather than you keep bringing love into the world, I guarantee you, in that feeling, you'll be guided exactly toward what to do. And it may be to make the best sandwiches in Ireland. And you'll be spreading love and joy. I knew a guy that was a sandwich maker who affected our whole city by his feeling. I used to go, oh, I feel good, but what do I do? What's my answer? And the good feeling is the answer. Love is the answer always. So then you just live in that feeling, and it'll guide you right toward helping somebody out or doing something or offering something, or in a moment of quiet, Billy, and I was just in that feeling, all of a sudden the word compassion came to mind, and I started reflecting on compassion, and I've reflected on it for months. And then all of a sudden I go, I'm loving what I'm seeing about this. And I contacted Aaron Turner at the UK conference and said, I want to talk about compassion. I can't stop it. It's just coming. Right. And then I developed a 6-week program on compassion that I want to offer. And it just, without thinking about what to do and how to do it, look for the feeling was Sid's advice.
Yeah.
When in doubt, when you're not sure, fall into that quiet and literally bring more love into the world. And I guarantee if you did nothing but that, you'd be helping to change the whole world, because we're all connected. It's all one big ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's why Sid would insist love is always, always the answer. The feeling of being connected to trees, bring love to the trees, bring it to the birds, bring it to, that's the ultimate, that's the original poetry, storytelling. That's the original. That's what the Irish storytellers and singers and poets that I admire so much know and knew, right? It's in the feeling, bringing it in.
Yeah, I think I had just in that instance, surely couldn't be that simple, Dicken.
I know. The instant you think about it, it'll get complicated. When I fall out of my thinking, it gets simple again.
Damn it, it has to be more complicated. It's got to be more complicated than that.
Oh, Billy.
Oh, thanks, Dicken. It's just been something that's been playing out in my head recently, and I really do appreciate the reorientation back to the center of it all. Thank you, and I appreciate the word opposite.
Yeah, awesome, good.
I appreciate the word opposite because
that was your insight. That was you heard something there that'll help you.
Yeah, that's perfect for me. Dicken, thank you very much. I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you. It's been a wonderful experience to sit in presence with you.
No, it's been a pleasure, Willie. Take care.
Billy, thank you to you and your lovely energy that you brought to that question. It's so infectious and contagious. Yeah. And Dicken, we're at the top of our time together here. So just from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for gracing us all with your wisdom and holding space for all of us and helping us move a little bit in the direction of presence. It's really, really felt. And I thank you so much. And to everyone else on the call, thank you for joining us on this call. 100 people have registered, and I asked all of them to let us know who you'd like to see in future webinars, in future public webinars. And other than the people who said Dicken, which I was confused about because it was for Dicken, people have suggested Marina Galan and Mavis Karn by an order of magnitude more than anyone else. So we have Marina Galan booked. We just have to set a date, and I'll let everyone know when that happens. But in the meantime, and to give the last word to Dicken, for anyone on this call that's interested in hearing more from you or reaching out to you or learning from you, where can we find you?
Go to sidbanks.com. That's the best way to hear what I teach and to get to know me better. You can Google my name on YouTube, and there's pages of talks that somebody pointed out to me, and I was shocked. People keep recording every stuff all these years and keep putting it up, and it's like I don't even know, It's so there's stuff there if you like talks. 3pgc.org is a great site for free material. And or you can email me if you have a question, dicken.bettinger@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, Dicken.
It's been lovely being with you, Thomas. Thanks for pulling together this party.
Oh, it was so easy. I mean, really, one post on Facebook and, you know, that's it, 100 people registered. So thank you so much again.
My
Dicken.
favorite kind of party, which is a come as you are party.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the best. That's the best kind of party. That's my favorite. Come
It
as
really
you are.
is. And give my best to Oliver.
Oh, I sure will. I'm going to hang with him right at this moment. He's waiting for me in the other room.
Okay.
Okay. Take
Guys,
care,
if you want to
everybody.
unmute yourself and say goodbye to Dicken on
Thank
your
you,
way
Dicken.
out, you're
Lovely
more
to
than
see you
welcome.
again.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
Dicken.
I really enjoyed
Lovely
the
to
call.
see
It
you.
was really
Oh.
lovely.
Oh,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Take
Night,
care.
Thomas. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
See you, Bill.